We need to talk about this. Talk about this.
All right, now, here's your host of the Georgio Says podcast. It's Georgio.
We need to talk about this.
All right, guys, welcome to an all-new episode of Georgio Says the podcast. It is Friday, September 19th. We are so close to October, which means Halloween, fall, all of that fun stuff is here. It's still warm out, but it's getting chillier at night, which I do enjoy. Anyways, this episode, I'm going to try to keep fully packed, but not too long because it is Friday. So I want to keep it really short and simple, but I do need to recap OC a bit and Miami for you guys. I also have some thoughts on some other people's perspectives on this whole Tamra Judge being the one behind the whole Gretchen Katie situation. So let's go ahead and jump in. Before we do that, just want to remind you guys, if you're watching on YouTube, please go ahead and hit the like button, hit subscribe, do all the things. It helps this channel. If you're listening to this on audio, please rate me 5 stars wherever you are listening to this podcast. I really, really appreciate it. Okay. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's jump in because Orange County had an all-new episode last night. And although, last week wasn't all that great, in my opinion, there wasn't a lot that kind of happened. This week, we're really starting to get into the thick of it. And this is kind of where I feel like we're going to land as we get to the finale. Nonetheless, we're still picking up from the girls' trip. So some of the ladies are in Temecula. So we have Shannon, Tamra, Gina, and Jennifer Pendranti in Temecula. And then we have Heather in Beverly Hills with Emily and Gretchen. So my mind was a little blown, I'll be honest, with this episode with a couple things. So I want to start off first with the conversation that Heather had with Gretchen and Emily at the dinner when they were at Crustacean. And she brings up how she felt like, yes, Tamra has been mean. She can be mean. And that this really triggered her because when she was growing up, and this is where Heather decides this is when she's going to be vulnerable while taking a dig at Tamra, who's supposed to be her friend, by the way, like her close friend. She takes the opportunity to basically compare Tamra to her father, who seemed to have anger issues and explode in public spaces to the point where it embarrassed Heather as a child. And I guess there was probably other issues that came from that behavior for Heather. And it's not that Heather sharing that is the problem. It's the way she framed it all up. I've said this in the past. I feel like Heather is very much media trained through the lens of the early 2000s. And this kind of validates that for me. Also, she clearly brought this up because she wanted someone to ask and prod more into the daddy issue that she was kind of touching on. And so when Gretchen was like, oh, so tell me what was that like, or whatever she asked her, Heather was like, oh, thanks for asking. Thanks for asking that. As if like, you didn't go into this expecting them to want more information out of you on the subject of your father being this explosive person in public who lost his temper. Listen, if we're going to put this in the context of Heather growing up with her father where there wasn't a reality show being filmed and that happening, yes. Is that abnormal? No. Did that probably traumatize her? Yes. But when you start connecting it to how Tamra is on a reality show, I think that's pretty fucked up because it's not apples to apples there. We don't see reports of Tamra being in public off camera, losing her shit in public. No, if that was the case, then maybe we would have something to discuss here, but that's not it. If you're going to go off of the way she behaves on the show, well, look at the environment that everyone's in. Everyone's going to have to go to the dark side at some point. You're going to have to talk shit about one of your friends. You're going to have to go up against one of these people that you hang out with off camera. That's what this show is. So it's weird that that's the comparison or that's the tie-in for Heather. It's like, oh, it triggers me because my dad used to flip out. Okay, well, then go to therapy and deal with that. Because also, your triggers are your problem. And if it's triggering you that much, then don't be her friend. That's my take on it. So then we go from that situation to now Gretchen is naked wasted because they've gone to the Abbey to have a night out. And of course, Gretchen is a completely different person when she's drinking than she is when she's sober, because when she's sober, she's this like very trad wife, Christian, like super put together, very like old school housewife mentality. And then you give her a few cocktails and she's swinging on a stripper pole. So it's wild to me. But anyways, to each their own. I'm not judging. It's just, if you're going to proclaim to be this big Christian who's got all this like, spirituality from your religion, why are you doing the things that you did in this episode? You go on to say that you basically are trying to throw Tamra out there for like basically making fun of your music or whatever, but she was also in the studio dropping some beats. Okay. Shout out to Nene for that infamous line, dropping some beats in the studio, dropping some beats. That's what she was doing. So what? Everyone, I've been dropping beats in the studio, my home studio. But listen, everybody can be what they want these days. I think we can get over the fact like, oh, who does she think she is? Thinking she can get in the studio like she can sing. I can't sing, but I guess if I really wanted to, I can make a pop song. Nonetheless, the point is, it goes from her being in the studio and that she heard this audio, this raw audio of Tamra in the studio trying to sing this song. But what she left out was that the song that Tamra was in there trying to record was not Tamra being vain and being like, I'm going to go record a song. It was kind of like this project for the no hate campaign. So I don't know if you guys remember, but there used to be this guy, Adam, I believe Busca was his last name. Adam Busca. He was a photographer. He would get all these different public figures and celebrities, anybody that was really trending at the time, to come in. They would do this like back white drop. They would wear a white t-shirt. They would put this silver duct tape over the person's mouth. And on the side of the cheek, the person would have no hate written on the cheek. And it was part of this like no hate campaign for the LGBTQ community. Nonetheless, part of, I guess, one of the campaigns was that I guess they were going to do a song, right? And so Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees was, I'm not sure if he was partners with the recording studio. I think I'm pretty sure it's a woman that owned the studio at the time. And I'm just not clear on whether Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees was like co-owner or a partner in some way. And don't quote me on that. I'm just making speculative guesses off the information that was provided, because this was a story back in 2017. That's how far back this goes. Nonetheless, we go from this, what was supposed to be this good thing, to then it turning into this very sinister story of like, oh, there's allegedly this secret audio of Tamra and Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees hooking up in the studio. And then I think one of the articles went in as far to be like, oh yeah, Tamra asked everyone to leave the studio so it could just be her and Jeff. First of all, it reads like someone clearly put this out on purpose. There's no merit to it. There's no factual evidence. And if I'm not mistaken, I've had a few birdies tell me that at that moment when all of it started to flare up in the media, Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees, I think, put a legal stop to it. I think he was putting out some warning shots to people, basically being like, don't even think about it. Which, if it's not true, good for them. But secondly, if it is true, why are you continuously trying to bring this up? This was something that happened almost a decade ago at this point, the story at least. And now Gretchen is bringing Slade back in. So now we get another like scene with Slade on FaceTime. And now he's adding in that he's heard the audio of Jeff Timmons and Tamra allegedly hooking up in the studio. But he won't say he has it. Someone has sent it to him or he's listened to it, whatever the case is. Either way, I think it's a pretty bold, ballsy move on both of their parts to keep playing this role, where they come in and it's clear as day who's running the show. Slade is clearly media coaching Gretchen, trying to help her get the full-time position, go up against her nemesis, Tamra, who can't seem to move on from anything. And on top of that, what's also not working in Tamra's favor is that everyone is literally against her, right? So it doesn't matter if what they're saying is a lie. People hate Tamra so much that they don't care. And that's where I think it gets dangerous, because people like Slade, who are so desperate to be on TV or on Housewives, there's no telling what they will do. And listen, the man clearly doesn't have a fucking job. So what is he really doing all day? Huh? What is he doing? He spends Gretchen's money. Everything's in Gretchen's name. They're never going to get married legally because Gretchen's not dumb. At least she's not dumb there. But also, what are we proving here? What are we proving? You can't put any of this out. You'll be sued like by multiple parties. So you can't put it out. You're talking a big game here with all of this. And it's serious because I'm pretty sure Jeff Timmons' wife isn't going to appreciate, nor is Jeff going to appreciate the story resurfacing, which is why you will notice that on the episode, they redacted Jeff's name. So they don't want no smoke. And I'm only bringing up Jeff Timmons because this is public information. This was a story that was already out there. It was out in 2017. So I'm just giving you guys the context behind what was redacted, but it was, allegedly Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees. Do I believe the story? Absolutely fucking not. I think it's a desperate cry for Gretchen and Slade to stay on this show by all means necessary. Second to that, I'm looking at Heather in the moment. And although Heather was like grossed out because she was like, oh, I don't care about that. I just want to hear her singing in the studio. Heather, that audio, and everyone out there, that audio has been out on SoundCloud for almost a decade. I believe All About the Tea actually put out the audio from Tamra singing in the studio. And it's not the salacious, obviously, the audio that Slade's inferring he heard. It's just of Tamra in the studio, kind of getting like motivated because she's clearly like, she doesn't want to sing. She knows she's not a singer. So she's just kind of being pumped up. Like, you can do it. Just do it. Just go in. Just do it. And that's it. She's got raw audio. Is she the best singer? No, but I don't think she ever claimed to be. When did Tamra say she was a pop star? Never. And again, this goes back to it being for a charity, essentially. So it wasn't like she was in there like Gretchen was trying to like be Faith fucking Hill. Like, give me a break. So we have that. And Heather is sitting there acting like, oh my gosh, I don't want to hear about that. I just want to hear her sing. Well, why don't you say something like, wow, you guys, what are you doing? Really? We're going to go back there. You're going to pull that story out of your ass. That now it's going to come with like, what are you doing? At least Emily was like, well, then let me hear it. You're talking all this game. I would be the same. Like, yeah, show it to me. Let me hear it. I want to hear it myself. You guys are saying a lot of things and not showing any real receipts. It's not working. Let's head over to Temecula though, because sorry guys, you guys want to keep, playing into this poor Shannon stuff. I'm telling you, I don't care anymore. I let you guys. I'm going to be honest. Last season, with all the drinking and stuff that was happening, that was being called out, I went light in comparison to what I wanted to say about it, because I do have strong views on that stuff. However, I didn't. This season, I'm expecting some resolution, because we're not in a real life situation in terms of like, this isn't your real friend that you don't film a show with. So if you don't want to speak to that person anymore, by all means, you don't have to. It's your choice. Now, I'm not saying Shannon doesn't have a choice in this matter, but it is different. This is your place of employment. And if the show, this is my opinion, if the show is based on conflict resolution, and yes, maybe, perhaps, Tamra causes some conflicts that are more than others, but hey, someone's got to get the job done. And if we're going to let some of these other women sit there, they'll be staring at each other the entire time, and no one's going to get to the thick of anything. So now that there's the conflict, what we have seen thus far in the season is Tamra going on essentially what is called an apology tour. She's trying to go and resolve those conflicts. Why? Because, well, a couple reasons. She's being paid a lot of money, so she understands the formula of this show, and she understands that there cannot be an absolute. We can't say absolutely, I'm not going to speak to this person. Absolutely, I'm not going to speak to her on camera, even if we're in. No, you've got to show that you can resolve stuff to some level where you can be cordial, you can get along, you can have fun even. And you can sense, though, Shannon was really fighting, trying not to have fun with Tamra. She really wanted it. And I feel like deep down, she misses that friendship. And I'm not saying that she's denied that piece of it, but what I do think she's denying herself of is a chance to just move on. you don't have to be the same friend to Tamara that you were before, but you can be friends and coworkers and be cordial on the show. And yes, you can still call each other out and do all those things, but for Shannon to sit there and continuously make it a problem when Shannon tries to make efforts to try to resolve with her, it's making me think maybe it's time for you to either be demoted or maybe you need a timeout. Because like I said, I believe it was yesterday's episode, you're showing up late, you're holding up production, you're showing up all like messy looking, you don't look like you're put together half the time. And it's frustrating to watch at points. It is. And it was frustrating in this episode watching Shannon, who was being vulnerable, talking about how this moment when she was younger, where her mom had said, like, basically, like, her and her dad were going to get a divorce, but somehow the processor didn't make it to her dad by 5 o'clock, but it was a Friday. So they had to go through the whole weekend basically faking it. And there was this whole barbecue. So it was really triggering for Shannon. And so in the moment, Tamra brought up something around the fact that Shannon had shared with her. They had had a conversation around her dad, and specifically that he used to be, I guess, either an alcoholic or he had issues around drinking. And this is where Shannon gets flared up. And I will be honest with you, I don't believe Tamra was doing it to dig at Shannon. That wouldn't make sense. If she's trying to resolve stuff with her, she's not going to try to keep poking at her. If she really wanted to poke at her, she could have poked at her the entire time. I think in this moment, she was just trying to be an authentic human in this conversation. But Shannon is in defense mode. So she was like, no, you know what? That's not cool, Tamra. That's my dad. Well, if it's that touchy of a subject and you know you've shared things with people in this group right now that could possibly come up, then don't talk about it at all. Talk about some other trigger in your life. I'm sure you've had many. We all have had quite a few. So that's what I would say. Now, am I saying this if this is what you and your girlfriends are going through while you're sitting on your front porch having like cocktails where there's no cameras around? No, because I would tell you, no, don't be friends with that person. If this is how they make you feel, don't. But we're on a TV show and everyone's being paid a lot of money. So we've got to really tighten it up. And if Shannon doesn't want to have resolve, this is now going to show that she's not willing to try to make an effort on her side. And I don't think people want to continue watching this, keep going back and forth. I don't want to watch another season, specifically not season 20, of Tamra and Shannon still in this space of like, came after me hard. Like, I don't care. Like, move on, please. What else happened in this episode that was interesting to talk about? You know, I think that was pretty much the highlights for me that I wanted to cover, because we're gonna take a break and then we're gonna jump into Miami. I'm gonna recap that for you guys as well. But yeah, OC, I'm getting to my, like, I almost didn't even want to recap it today, if I'm honest. I'm so like done with the Gretchen Slade of it all. And now that we don't have Katie on for the remainder of the season, pretty much, it's going to just be Gretchen going after Tamra, which is part of the plan because they really want her to be full-time. But you guys can let me know your thoughts on last night's episode down below, wherever you're watching or listening. I am always open to hearing what everyone's perspectives are. But I think a lot of you guys agree with me. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive into Miami because next week is the finale, guys. And then it's a wrap.
This episode of the Georgio Says podcast is brought to you by Golly Nutrition, the inventive, people-focused nutrition company making your daily supplements simple and delicious. Every Golly product is crafted with high-quality ingredients you can pronounce and flavors your taste buds will love. At the heart of Golly is purpose. Through the Golly for Good initiative, they support our planet and our communities, partnering with Vitamin Angels and Eden Reforestation Projects. Visit golly.com today and use the code TheGeorgioSays at checkout for a special discount just for our listeners. That's Golly Nutrition. Simple, delicious, and good for the world. Now back to the episode.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Let's dive into Miami, shall we? Miami has had a season, if I'm being honest, okay? I will say you guys are not feeling the reunion looks. I will say they're not my favorite. I've seen way better from this cast, specifically around coordination in terms of colors and silhouette. Anyways, this episode was really interesting because, and I say this with love, Adriana, I don't know if I think you really were saying wretched. I actually do think she said ratchet. And I think when it came out, she realized it. but I don't know if I believe wretched. The reason why is because Adriana showed her ass on this episode. She was saying a lot. So I'm just going to be honest here. You know, we love Adriana on here at Georgio Says. Adriana is a friend of the page. She's commented. She understands. We love her here. But in this moment, Adriana, no, zip it. Zip, zip, zip. First of all, she did everything that you're not supposed to do in a situation like the one she was in. First of all, I need to be very crystal clear here. Kiki never, ever, that I have heard or had knowledge of watching the show, she never said the word racist in regards to Adriana. If I'm wrong, please correct me, guys. I went back. I couldn't see where she said that. But for some reason, when the information, because now it's like a mystery, this whole episode, who put the number equation on Adriana's birthday cake? You know, Larsa's like on the case. She's trying to figure out who would have done this. It's horrible. Everyone knows how she feels about her age. So it's basically this like mystery we're trying to solve, or Larsa's trying to solve. And then when we get to, because it's Art Basel, this is Adriana's, you know, moment. She does all of the art shows. She's very, like, if I ever go back to Miami, I'm going to actually request that I do some sort of tour with her to go look at art, because I think it's so fascinating. And I just feel like she would be the best person for that, because I just love the way she talks about it, even though I don't know too much about art specifically. But nonetheless, it's Art Basel. She's really happy. It's an event. They're having a party, a showcase for an artist that she's flown in from England to showcase his work, you know. And then as we get through some of this evening, we see that Kiki was the one that put this equation on the cake. Now, I'm not sure if Kiki was doing that to be shady to Adriana. I'm sure she was to some degree, because otherwise, why would you come up with an equation like that when you know that the person hates their age, meaning the number? So why would you put it in any part of the cake? Like, why would you put anything that would equate to any number on the cake? You put a full like multiplication, subtraction, division equation on her cake. And of course, when she found out about it, this is where things went left. Once she finds out about this, then to me, Adriana got triggered because she was worried that Kiki had maybe skewed this Adriana was racist by using the word ratchet towards me. So she starts going off on the defense. Adriana has a lot of friends that are different walks of life. And one of her best friends, I believe her name was Carol, who's been her partner in crime in the art world, was there. And so she goes up to her and she's like, I can't believe that, you know, she would say I was being racist. And then she holds true that she said wretched. I am now thinking she didn't say wretched. I think that was just that's a close word that with my accent, I can probably get away with saying that's what I said, but you heard it as ratchet. Anyways, nonetheless, she is standing firm that she did not say ratchet. She said wretched. And now Kiki's going around telling people she's racist. So now she's going to her black friend to validate, I'm not racist, right, Carol? Carol's like, absolutely not. That's ridiculous. Don't worry about it. You don't let it get you. Basically, like, Carol was like, girl, don't do this right now. Don't sweat it. If you know, she should have been a little bit more blunt about it, in my opinion. But then she kept going, and she was going and going and going. And she's like, I have all these black friends, and I'm going to let my black friend tell you. You tell your perspective on this, Carol. And Carol's like, what? Now, why am I in it? Because I don't know what's going on. But Kiki also left because it was ridiculous that it had blown up to such a degree. So when Kiki's leaving, she's like, I never called her that. I don't know what the hell's going on. Julia, now remember, Julia used to be best friends with Adriana, and they've clearly not been close this season because Julia is up Marisol and Alexia's ass. And so Julia goes after Kiki. And so when she comes back, Adriana's like, it's nice that you went after Kiki. You didn't stick up for me. And she's sitting here calling me racist. Again, she didn't say anything about racist. She didn't use that word. None of that at all. So again, Adriana's showing her ass and she's saying a lot. Even Gertie was like, girl, say less. Don't keep doing this. You're making it worse. Because even if you didn't, let's just say Kiki said she was, which she didn't, from my knowledge. Let's just say that she did call her a racist. The way Adriana reacted would have made me think that you are kind of racist. Why are you being so defensive? Because if someone said that to me, I'm like, oh, I'm absolutely not racist. But we can have a conversation about why you may think that. And then that person would have said, oh, I never said racist. Oh, okay. Well, that clears it up. But I also think, to be fair, Adriana has been put through the ringer. I've mentioned this, maybe not on here as much, but on my short forms, I've definitely mentioned Adriana absolutely deserves full-time status on this show. I'm so sorry. She's in every episode. She's on every cast trip. And so is Marisol. But Marisol seems like she's more, I'm starting to see a more sinister side of her. And I know a lot of you are like, you're just now seeing that. It's not that I didn't think it was in there. It's just I didn't view her to be so hungry for full-time status. Because when I interviewed Marisol back when the reboot was coming out, she was happy being a friend because she didn't want to necessarily be involved. But I do understand that things can change. And over time, the reception to the reboot was so grand that it probably got to her and she wants a bigger piece of the pie. That's fine. But there's a reason why they're keeping Marisol and Adriana friend of role. I'm not sure what that is, but I think it's time we start really evaluating making Adriana full-time status, because I think she can then go head to head with people. I think keeping her on the same level as Marisol keeps them in that same box of basically bitching at each other, which is fine. It's funny. It's entertaining at times. But I just feel like we're dogging Adriana out. We're just dogging her out. And listen, is she perfect? No, she absolutely isn't. None of these ladies are. But, I have no problem calling Adriana out in this last episode for her overreaction to something that wasn't really said. And she didn't validate it. I think it was something that just popped into her mind that that's what it was going to be connected to. And listen, she's afraid she's going to be canceled, which I understand that. But if you aren't racist, then it shouldn't be an issue, right? And it should be just a conversation, which Adriana should have done is gone up to Kiki and said, I just want to be clear with you about this again. But that didn't happen, unfortunately. And so we got this very ostentatious reaction moment. And now things are even shittier with Julia and Adriana, but I don't think Julia cares. Something else that was interesting to me, Julia and Martina are at home. It's Christmas time. They're sending, I guess, these little Christmas boxes to Julia's daughters, who are not really in a good space with Julia or Martina since they've adopted these two boys. And this episode gave me a little bit more clarity as to what the issue was. So Julia explained that when she spoke to, I don't remember which daughter she said she spoke to about this, but she spoke to one of her daughters, and the daughter or both were collectively thinking that perhaps had they still been there, meaning the girls still lived at home, when they adopted these boys, and it would have been different because they would be a part of that experience. From what I understand, them adopting these two boys once the girls were out of the house kind of makes it feel like you guys are starting a whole new family without us. And so we're not a part of that chapter, which, to be fair, I would have a problem with as well. But the way Martina responded, so sure of this statement she made. Well, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered if they were here or not. Well, how do you know? Because I think it would have. I don't think they would be this angry if they were involved in the process. Now, I could be wrong. We're only hearing one side of the story, and we're hearing their side through Julia's lens. So who knows what the real truth is? But I did find it a bit odd that Martina was just so sure that it's almost like she's like these little bratty kids. But again, we don't know what their situation was. There's a reason why the editors flash back to Julia and her daughter in the kitchen. And the daughter's like, do you even know the name of my school that I go to? And Julia can't answer it. So I don't know. The dynamics go way back. It's not just about these two boys. I think it's about the resentment of, oh, now you want a do-over? How convenient. I can understand that. Look, Alexia and the Todd of it all, you guys know how I feel about that if you've been listening. After hearing Todd's, 11-minute video that he posted a month or so back, where he basically explained that he's essentially paying for everything still. He's paying for the lease that Alexia and Frankie and everybody's living in. This is all concocted for a storyline, so it's really hard for me to take it seriously when Alexia is even talking about it, frankly. But I will say that I am really glad that the season is coming to an end. This was a weird season. It was all over the place a little bit. Larsa and Lisa seem to be in a good spot still at this point in the season, which I'm happy about. Lisa is really now on the, you know, she's on the kick now where she's trying to ask Jody what's going on. Like she's not liking being a girlfriend. She's too old to be a girlfriend. Which I understand. She's been with Jody, I think, a few years at this point. This is the time to start having that conversation. Specifically because Lisa has kids and Jody does spend a lot of time with those kids. So I think it's only fair to talk about what the future looks like. And I applaud Lisa for doing that because I think when we've watched Lisa in the past, she's been much more hesitant to speak up. You know, like when Lenny would say stuff or like she would want to mention something, he would belittle it. I liked that she stood her ground here. Like she was like, look, and if you don't want that, that's fine, but then let me go. Don't keep me tied up in something if you're not interested in marrying me. And I also like that she said, if you don't want to do it, then don't. Like, because again, nobody wants to feel like you pressured someone into doing something, but the conversation's important. I think, especially at this stage of life, like I said, she's got kids. You got to be smart about this. So that was pretty much the episode outside of Stephanie and Marisol's little issue, where I guess Stephanie's realizing that Marisol is not to be trusted. I mean, at least I hope that she's picked up on that from this conversation, because Marisol is a person I think that kind of pushes Alexia to say certain things. But it's interesting to me because Alexia has really thrown Marisol under the bus this season a couple times. And it's interesting because it makes me think that maybe these dynamics need to shift a bit. It's too much of the bros together. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be friends on the show or close friends on it, but we need to start seeing more interpersonal conflicts between them. They're kind of turning into like a hybrid one housewife, and I don't really care for that. So I'm excited for the finale. I'm very interested to see how this reunion goes. I heard a lot of stuff went down, so it should be interesting. Also, as we wrap up this episode, I did want to let you guys know, I know I mentioned it maybe yesterday on the episode that I did, where I was saying I think we're going to get Beverly Hills a lot sooner than even like mid-December. I think we're going to get it like end of November, guys. The reason why I'm saying that is because Bravo has put out their new promos for upcoming shows that are going to be coming out. And Beverly Hills was like featured in that. And there was clips from the new season. Very short clips, nothing that I can even tell you anything about. But it made me think, okay, that means they're going to be pushing. So that means we're probably in the next few weeks, we're probably going to get a trailer for Beverly Hills. That's my prediction, guys. That's what I'm sticking to. That's what my gut's telling me. And my gut's usually right. All right, guys. That's all I got for you guys. I try to recap both shows in one episode to spare you guys having to listen to multiple. I know it's Friday. I hope all of you guys are having a fun time this weekend doing whatever you're doing. If you guys have not gone to my merch store yet and checked out all the cool stuff that I have in there, you're missing out. Go to giorgiotakanakis.com/shop and get yourself something nice. Also, my Housewives in the Stars tarot cards, you can order those. Pre-order has ended. They officially became available the 15th. So this past Monday, order started shipping out. And you can get yours at giorgiotakanakis.com/shop. I designed the cards front and back myself. And they are obviously Housewives inspired, but they are real tarot. It is a real tarot deck. It's all 78 cards. And yeah, so go check that out. I will be doing a collab with Femtarot shortly. She's going to be using my Housewives in the Stars tarot deck to do some Bravo readings. So we're going to do a collab. It's been a very long time since the two of us have done something. So I am very much looking forward to that. Follow me on all the places at Georgio Says. Instagram, TikTok, all the fun things. Again, hit like, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, rate me 5 stars if you're listening to this audio anywhere you're listening to your podcasts. And I am probably going to drop a bonus episode over the weekend. So stay tuned for that. But if not, I will talk to you guys on Monday for sure. But until the next episode, guys, I will talk to you on the next one. Bye.
We need to talk about this. Talk about this.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast.
We need to talk about this.